This is about protecting us from Disney and Sony. That's all I'm saying. And so when he was making that plan, he never was like, well, if XQC says, yeah, give me money. I want the money. Watch it on my stream.
And they
and this is the question I'll ask you. If XQC said, watch it on my stream. I want the money. I want the clicks. Do you think he would sue XQC?
I think he would have sued him.
Oh, no
Yeah,
way.
I do.
Oh, then I think that's naive.
I think he would have sued him.
I think that's completely naive to think that if XQC said, I love Ethan, really mean it, but I want the money. I want his money, and so watch it on my stream. If he said that then, I think there's a 0% chance he would go after XQC because he doesn't really care about
No fucking shot, dude. I don't know about that one. I'm sorry, okay? If XQC became... What the fuck? Okay, I think Pisco is being a little bit delusional here. Okay, I think Pisco is legitimately being a little bit delusional here. Because I think, in my humble opinion, I think that if XQC became somewhat of an H3 snarker, I promise you a lawsuit is going to take place. Okay? Because that's literally what Pisco is describing, right? He's saying if XQC announced that he wanted people to watch his stream because he didn't want to give any money to Ethan Klein, I think that there's almost 100% chance, that XQC would be included somewhere in the lawsuit. Yeah, as a party that is sued, 100%. What is he talking about? This is delusional. Like, this is actually delusional territory. What? Like, he's talking about the hypothetical where Pisco turns into a snarker. I have to start being quiet, okay? I can't wake up my landlord. Right?
infringement.
In order to have your position, you'd have to have like a really low opinion of Ethan's character, and I just don't have that.
No. I don't think it requires me having a bad.
Of course it does.
On his opinion. No, in fact, I like Ethan Klein. I have been a big fan of H3. And I watched Vape Nation. I was a big fan of Humongous. I watched him all throughout his early React days.
No, but you think he's lost his way now, right?
I'm not saying that.
Kind of the gist
I'm not saying that. I probably agree more politically with him than Hassan Piker. In terms of lost his way, I don't know in terms of what that would even refer to. I think he has been a victim of a lot of unfair shit. I certainly don't support the kind of meandering statements of where people were accusing him of being this or that, or sending him skulls or whatever. So I don't think that he's quote unquote lost his way. I think that's whatever that means. All I'm saying is that here he is trying to sell a narrative that doesn't pass muster. The notion that this is all about protecting from a particular kind of infringement, but at the same time we want to not chill the broader reaction community. And that means not ever taking action against people like XQC or Asmongold, even though what they do is blatant infringement, and that this is about setting a precedent before Sony and Disney do, even though there's absolutely no evidence that the kind of precedent that would be produced by this lawsuit, and he knows this, would be limited to this non-element, which is the intentional siphoning rationale. I think it's so bizarre, so beyond the pale. It's not what's going on, and he couldn't have known in advance when he was making this plan that these kinds of incriminating statements, these admissions were going to be made. He couldn't have known that, and I think that the evidence suggests that he was planning to sue people initially. He was setting a trap, but it wasn't a trap for this kind of specific subset of infringement. It was a trap for people who infringed who he didn't like. That's what he was trying to do.
But okay, so you are calling him disingenuous here. You're basically saying that he's lying. But
yes, I am.
But like,
kind of.
To me, there's like a couple things that
I lost the motivation for a question. No problem. I'll answer it anyway. So I think that there is a large overlap between economic model and the political system. Okay, I think that they are intrinsically tied to each other. For example, if your model is a capitalist system, generally you would encourage international trade, right? Absolutely. If you encourage international trade, then yes, you're going to be a little bit more liberal in the ways that you approach things because business is just simply better, right? However, if you're a communist and you want to improve the means of production or something, right? Then yeah, in that specific aspect, you are going to have a little bit more like exclusiveness, blah, 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 right? And that is going to factor into your political culture. It happens all the time. However, do I think that it necessarily predicts the entire thing? No, I don't think so. Okay, I just don't think so. Does communism promote the existence of a vanguard party and a dictatorship? Yes, it does. Okay, I do actually think it does, because I think that if you support a communistic like model, you do actually need someone to start deciding how to set the prices. If you start to decide that, then yeah, you are going to end up with somebody making all the decisions that they think that they are correct on, right? More than anything else. So be careful. All right, it depends. Okay, so yeah.
Look at where it's entirely plausible
Anyway,
that
that's the
Ethan
answer
is
to your
being
question.
genuine with this, which is the fact that number one, there was a history of people doing this very specific thing that passes this other threshold of like going into actual malice. Like there was a history of this happening. It was targeted at Ethan, particularly with the snark community. Here's what I think is the most
How do you explain historical communistic schemes with no party? Can you give an example? What do you mean with no parties? Like a one-party system, so therefore technically no parties, or do you mean something else? Because every government is technically a party, you know, in of itself, the ruling party.
likely situation. Like I think he was going after the snark subreddit before he thought about going after the
know what you're
creators.
talking about. Sorry.
And it was after the fact
I
when
don't
like
think,
maybe he didn't
I don't
really
think that's a thing.
maybe he didn't expect that the creators themselves
Like even if you're talking about Native American tribes, right? Even then, they're still like technically a ruling party. Whatever head family is in charge. Would you describe tribal councils as part? Yes, absolutely. Yes. Yeah.
would just come out and say,
Yeah.
let's take a view from Ethan. But I
That's
do think
literally the
like
example that I gave off.
he's already targeted people within the snark subreddit with
but the
litigation.
The snark
and so
guys
there's-
aren't
so
copying.
wait,
They're
hold
not.
on. So no, but you're not listening. Like the snark subreddit for the leftovers H3 or whatever, that subreddit has been over the last year regularly posting. So like any kind of content for him, they go out of their way to take views from him. He's already targeting somebody in the snark subreddit with a lawsuit from like 2 or 3 months ago, because this person posted a post in the snark that was like an alternative post so that it didn't give Ethan a view. And then Ethan issued a DMCA, and the person who did this post counterclaimed the DMCA, which is a huge, that's like textbook DMCA. If you're doing fraudulent counterclaims, that's like a textbook DMCA situation right there. So he already has this history of like going after the snark for this like very thing that he's going after these creators for. And then on top of that, he has
But
an
it's
established
belied. It's
history
belied by
of-
his own words. He says that he not that he was going after the snark. He was going after the reactors. He says very clearly, "I want to make the most delicious piece of content."
No, but he
so
said
that
no,
it's-
but he
so
said in the video
specifically that it's
he said in
reacted
the video
to.
himself. But he said in the video, I couldn't have possibly dreamed that the creators would be stupid enough to just come out and say, "I'm going to take your content."
Wait a second.
So to me,
wait
that,
a second. So I actually forgot about that. Wait, so when he say he couldn't have dreamed that they were going to do this, right?
It's okay.
That's saying I couldn't have expected them to make these admissions, right? If he's saying I couldn't.
But you're not listening. But you're not listening though. I'm saying I think it's more plausible that his initial goal was to trap the snark subreddit. And then specifically the snark
Lucy?
subreddit, who he has an intense beef with these people because they're filled with some of the most psychotic, parasocial individuals you could possibly imagine, that obsess about him and his wife, that celebrated the
very
CPS
Destiny
stuff,
true.
that
It's overdue.
regularly do this malicious like
cooked.
theft of his content. I think it's way more plausible that he was specifically targeting them, and then people like Denims were stupid enough to come out and say, let's steal the thing." And so he's like, "Fuck it, let's throw them on the pile."
No. But he registered his work, right? He registered his work to sue a reactor, right? He wanted to sue a reactor. Agreed. We should.
I think he wanted to sue the snark. That's what I'm saying.
No, but you would
would.
need to have underlying copyright to sue the snark. Like for example, in the clip example you said.
Perfect kill. Perfect fucking kill. Let's fucking go, dude. Do you think there's a noteworthy difference between a political system with formalized parties and those with more run on informal deliberation? Like, what does that mean? Like I need an example for all of these. Yeah.
I'm assuming the snark guys are copying, right? So they're hosting the clip somewhere and they're putting it on the server somewhere, and so they're infringing on his copyright. So yeah, if you wanted to go after the Snark people, but the Snark people aren't putting their faces out to react to stuff. Yeah, you could, maybe he was intending to go after the Snark people as well, to the extent that they were copywriting, or sorry, they were violating his copyright.
I think he was specifically targeting them. I think he did not think that other creators would be so dumb to do what Denims did.
Well, if you think that he could not have thought that people like Denims would make admissions, then it's clear that his strategy at the start of it wasn't, which was to go after reactors, right? He says, I want to make a piece that's so that they have to react to it, right? That we should actually get I'm gonna watch just the first 2 minutes on 2x speed. Can we put a pause just for 2 minutes? Is that okay?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay, 1 second.
Hi there, my name is Ethan Klein, and my favorite hobby is spending hundreds of thousands of dollars on lawyers. Today I invite you into my home to share my favorite pastime with you. Join me in creating generational wealth for my attorney. Let me tell you about a story. About a year and a half ago, there's a big conversation called Reactgate. Reactgate was a debate going on in the streaming community about what constituted fair use. People like Hassan, XQC, and many of the large Twitch streamers would watch other creators' entire video on their stream. They would rarely add sufficient commentary or even pause the video to speak. Most egregiously, they would re-upload the entire VOD.
He calls it egregious, by the way. Just say he calls what Hassan and XQC do. He calls it egregious.
Oh my god.
Same thumbnail, the same title, so that they could cannibalize traffic from the original video. Here's what Amino had to say about this phenomenon.
I don't mind people reacting to my videos, but I do mind when they play the entirety of my video. A face cam in the corner or the occasional.
I feel like Pisco would be such a buzzkill at parties. Oh my god. Like he would just like literally make the most retarded fucking semantic arguments and ruin the whole vibe.
Interruption does nothing to address that issue. My video is still being played from beginning to end in someone else's stream or video. It's neither ethical nor necessary to feature the entirety of someone else's work, or they could do the bare minimum and ask for permission, something that none of the major reaction channels have ever done when they've streamed or re-uploaded my videos. But to answer your question, no, I don't want people to stream or re-upload the entirety of my videos.
Terrorist.
Now, understandably, this made a lot of people angry, because why should these content thieves, essentially, get more views than the author of the video?
He calls what XQC does thievery, content thieves. Why should they get views? He calls it thievery. Which
in a lot of cases was happening. I mean, people don't like injustice. It's just, we all see it.
I'm so mad.
Injustice, he says that
XQC, one of the prime suspects, called into my show to debate me. In which case, I'm sad to report that I was terribly owned. So in that regard, do you care at all about like IP
hang on,
copyright?
I'm gonna step away literally for 1 minute. Hang on.
Yeah, go for it.
Legal? Does that matter? If that might be illegal, does that matter to you?
No.
It doesn't matter.
Well, if flat out doesn't, because watch me full screen cam, do the fucking worm, and watch your plan, then watch your plan
Do it
content.
for a week. Do a week of no reaction content and see how many fucking views you get. Oh, okay, sure. I mean, that's content, man. It's original content, at least. The ultimate debate.
Pisco is a psychopath. He doesn't even smile. He doesn't even smile at XQC doing the worm with the squeaking sound, okay? That's how you know he's a psychopath, okay? Only a true psychopath would never smile at that part. That shit was funny as fuck, okay?
Bro, he hit him with the worm. Oh, why didn't I think of that first? I kid XQC, but he is not the one I'm suing. Despite my criticism, he's not a malicious infringer. But the ones I am suing, you'll see, are much, much worse. Now, ironically, after this debate and in the wake of this large conversation, the problem seems to have only gotten worse. You have people like Hassan Piker paving the way of fair use with what's known as chair reacts, when Hassan gets up to go to the bathroom, or to eat, or to talk to his mom.
And now, just for the people, he's talking about Hassan's chair reacts, his chair reacts where not when Hassan is giving them malicious intent, right? So this is, again, he's saying it's gotten even worse. It's gotten even worse. And how has it gotten worse, Ethan Klein? Well, the chair reacts. But that's not malicious intent. That's not saying malicious intent. So the way in which it's getting worse isn't malicious intent. So he's clearly identifying the kind of non-transformative as what's being egregious. Okay, so continuing on.
Whatever, disappears for an extended period of time and leaves the video playing for his chair. Mr.
Very
Chair, they call it.
informative.
You have to warn people to leave the area around the main airport in Sana'a. Then
Right, so he's identifying the chair react thing, even though, yeah, XQC does the exact same thing. So in no way is it more egregious than what XQC does. Yep.
And it was in this setting that I formulated an idea. What if I could make a long form,
I formulated an idea. What if I could make a long form irresistible
content that I knew that these streamers couldn't resist?
That I knew that these streamers couldn't resist the temptation of watching it.
The second it was published.
I don't have an issue with that.
The second it was
Not that I wanted
published.
these people to steal.
Why is Pisco acting as if like he already won the debate? Like why is he acting this way, dude? Like why? There's no reason for you to be acting this cringe. Like he's literally acting as if like this is like the biggest fucking bombshell that has ever bombshelled. Oh my god, dude. Pisco, just chill just for a moment, okay? Oh my god. Act like a normal person for once.
My video is that I knew they would. I knew that they would
steal my video. Okay?
By the way, just FYI, Hutch has stepped away and told him that he was stepping away from the computer. Okay, Hutch isn't even here right now. Hutch isn't even here. He's being schizophrenic. He's like actually being schizophrenic.
Entire video, add little to
It's
no
funny as
commentary,
fuck.
react to it instantly, giving them no time to form an opinion. The trap was set, and it worked even better than I imagined it would. We captured pretty much every large streamer reacting to
You
it
really
in its
do be
entirety
pissing.
immediately.
I don't know.
Oh my
what is
god!
going
Oh, this
on.
is so bad. This is so bad for Ethan. Hang on. I'm so glad. Thank you for making me watch this. Hang on.
Instantly, giving them no time to form an
Got it.
opinion. The trap was set,
Thank
and
you.
it worked
What?
even better than I imagined it would. We captured pretty much every large streamer reacting to it in its entirety immediately after it was published. Now the thing is, there were a few people that went above and beyond to commit copyright infringement. For example, Denim sits here silently with nearly
Oh my god. Okay.
50,000 live viewers. That's 30 times her regular viewership. She's working directly with the Snark subreddit moderators to siphon views, and their intentions couldn't be clearer. Here's an excerpt from a sticky post from the Snark subreddit. Hey everyone, we've seen a lot of comments about wanting to watch the nuke without showing support for H3. Here's a list of creators who've supported our sub, either by engaging with us directly or citing our post in their critique of H3. Here they're offering these streamers as market substitutes for my work. This is the cardinal sin of copyright infringement. The Snark subreddit has been a frequent and persistent infringer. That's how I knew when this video came out, the Snarkers were going to encourage, promote, and push streamers to commit copyright infringement. I should thank the Snarkers actually. Because of their predictability, they acted like double agents for us, incriminating their favorite streamers and serving them up on a golden platter. So thank you, Snark. It's one thing for a subreddit to admit it's engaging in copyright infringement, but how do you get the streamers themselves to admit that they're stealing content?
Well, guys, if you enjoyed not giving any views to that terrible video, follow, subscribe, throw a prime if you like the content, if you enjoyed your time here.
It turns out they just do it for you. You couldn't cook up a more incriminating statement if you tried. Denim's the queen of self-owning. You prevail again. There's one thing about copyright you should know is that you gotta register it before you publish to be eligible for statutory damages and attorney's fees, which is the
so
mean biting.
he literally suggests and says that he was trying specifically to go after these streamers. So that's number one. Okay.
Yeah.
So it's not just going after the Snark. He set the trap specifically for the streamers, and he says, "Hey, where's the if I don't have an issue with it."
I don't get what point he's trying to make here.
That he knew would happen is that they would steal his video without putting much commentary on it. When there was instantly no time to give an opinion, and it worked even better than I imagined it would. We captured pretty much every large streamer reacting to it in its entirety immediately after it was published. So it worked better even than he imagined it would. So he wasn't planning, right? His plan was to capture large streamers who played the video in its entirety without transforming it. His plan wasn't to capture these admissions, and he was specifically going after these individuals, not because of the admissions, but because
This is actually mental retardation territory, okay? You cannot be this autistic, okay? No, and no, okay? Even if you're autistic doesn't mean you're correct, okay? Because if you're way too autistic about it, you're wrong, all right? And this is like a really good example of that. I think, okay, I think that Ethan Klein probably wasn't thinking about it all that hard. I don't think so. I don't think Ethan Klein was thinking about it all that hard. He probably wanted to only go forward with it if he actually felt like his lawyers told him that they had a case. Yeah. So he is not entrapping, but he is setting a trap per se. Why? Because it is already based off of their already bad behavior, right? It's already based off of their bad behavior. It's not because it's not like he's forcing them to do some kind of bad behavior. It's because he already assumes that because off of their previous history of bad behavior, okay, how do we get them? I'll give a perfect example. Perfect. Okay. Let's just, there has been many cases in the past where police investigations are trying to corner, they're trying to corner a serial killer. Okay. There's a specific type of person that a serial killer goes after. Let's just say prostitutes. That is a very common archetype that serial killers go after. Okay. Their hatred of women.
Just a drink. A martini, shaken, not stirred.
Clay, thank you so much for the $1. Anyway, there is a very specific archetype that some people go after, okay? And part of that is like, I'm pretty sure it's like the, So they have a plant, okay? The plant is a prostitute, right? Someone who is presenting as a prostitute, all right? In order to trap the serial killer. Is that entrapment? Is that entrapment? Knowing that the serial killer would attempt to kill her? And then arresting the serial killer based off of that, is that entrapment? Right? That's a good question.
Because of what he said at the start of the video, which is what XQC starts to do, not because of the malicious and admissions. And so I totally disagree that we can say that his plan at the start was to get these admissions. His plan at the start was to make a piece of content so delectable that it would attract streamers to watch it in its entirety and to not give much content.
Yes, they had no choice but to watch it. Okay, they literally had no choice but to watch it and to admit guilt. It's crazy, isn't it?
Commentary on it. And so his plan was to go after such people, and that the admissions part is
Wow, I was trying to catch like dude, oh my god. Oh no, I was trying to catch a serial killer, okay? But I created a prostitute so delectable that the serial killer couldn't resist going after them. Clearly that was entrapment. Clearly it was unfair for me to, you know, place a bait there, all right, for the serial killer to fall right into.
totally post hoc. He was planning to sue regardless of whether or not the specific admissions were made.
Yeah, but that's not incompatible with what.
Oh my god, and Pisco is so fucking smug. Why does he have to be so smug about it too? Like, oh my god, dude, his smugness pisses me off, dude. Oh my god, he's so smug, dude. He's like, I really got him, dude. I got Hutch on this one. Easy debate. I'm just the winner of debates. They call me the pisser.
What I've said my whole thing the whole time. I mean, maybe it's incompatible with me theorizing that he was specifically targeting Snark, because it does sound like
it's
been a minute since I watched that video.
He's
that
chubby,
he
but I don't think
had
he's
plans
fat.
for specific creators.
Yeah.
Okay,
but that doesn't mean that it can't be both of these things. Like you can have a plan to fuck with individual creators in their communities for things like having CPS called on his house and then cracking jokes about it.
No, I totally agree with that. I totally
and then
agree
at the same time, like you're confronted with, okay, so now we have
under the beard is a third chin. You're right. Everybody has to post pod, okay?
the material that we need. What do we want to do from now on? Or like what do we want to go? Where do we want to go
That's
from
pretty
here?
lashes. True,
and then
true,
it's
true,
me,
true,
it's totally conceivable that he would think like, okay, well,
he has
if
very strong eyebrows.
if I sue people like Asmongold and XQC, then this would lead to like a lot of people just not doing React content. I don't want to do that, so let's like narrow it to a more specific subset.
Wait a second. So I agree about the first part of what you said with respect to that he had his targets planned out, and that the CPS thing probably played a role in it, and I even think that that's a justifiable way to distinguish it. But let's just be 100 trillion% clear here. What he was planning for and expecting was for the streamers that he was going to go after, for them to do the whole video, do it very close in time to when it was dropped, and to not offer much transformative nature in their content, to just basically watch it, the whole thing. That to me suggests, and I hope you would agree, that if they had not made those admissions, what his expectations would have been fulfilled. That is to say, the expectation he planned for was that they would infringe his content. And regardless of those admissions, they infringed on his content. And so the plan was to sue for infringement regardless of admissions.
Right.
Or maybe that's not the case. Or maybe that's just not the case.
Right. So then this whole thing about, well, we're only suing after because of the specific malicious infringement and intentional siphoning, that's all bullshit. He acknowledges and knows that even without the intentional siphoning rationale, this shit is toxic. He, in the start of his video, talks about how Hassan the chair reacts are really, really bad. And XQC does that kind of shit too. And that doesn't include language about intentional siphoning. And he even starts by saying what Hassan and XQC does in general is horrible, an injustice, theft. He says it's egregious. So there is no world in which his original plan was to solicit damning admissions to set a line to protect from Disney and Sony, because we really want to, punish infringement, but just one type of infringement, the ones involving malice, which is not an element to any of the causes of action.
Okay, you're trying to prove guilt beyond a reasonable doubt. Okay, so we got a jury here. Is it possible?
God, I hate that chuckle. that little gruesome, smug chuckle of his drives my flames of blood to boil at its seams.
Is it
Chuckle
guilt beyond
again,
reason?
The
Pisco.
causes of action.
Okay, you're trying to prove guilt beyond a reasonable doubt. Okay, so we got this. We got a jury here.
Ugh, you little smug chuckle. Fuck you.
Is it possible? Is it possible that Ethan had this original plan to use this trap to go after specific creators that he had personal grievance with, and then once he was presented with their reactions, like what they did, he decided that he would be more narrow in his targeting because he came to the conclusion that if he would have gone after XQC and Asmon, it would have caused a lot of people to just stop reacting, which was not his intent. Like, is that possible?
So if then what you're saying is going after XQC, the reason he's not going after them is because it'll have more of a chilling effect.
Chilling effect, which it would though.
Why?
Which it would. Why? Hold on. You don't need this explained.
No, I know why it's less chilling, or to not go after XQC, but the reason isn't what isn't what you're saying it is. The reason it would be less chilling to go after Denims than XQC is because everyone knows what his real intent is. Is they know that if you give positive coverage, you're not at risk. That's what people know. That the reason why going after XQC would be
positive coverage. You think that's what this is?
Yes, 100%.
You think, okay, hold on. So now I feel like we're at a different conclusion here. Now you seem to be saying that not only is the idea that he is trying to protect or improve and protect and thereby protect the React community, not only is that bullshit, his real intention is simply just to like silence anyone who critiques him.
No, I think that infringement is a necessary condition. So in order to go after people to silence them, or to start to go after people in general, that infringement is a but for necessary condition. But there's another necessary condition, which is he needs to have a vendetta or not like you in some way. And one of the ways in which you cannot like you is if you have negative coverage. But if you, for example, so here's an example.
But it goes beyond negative coverage though. We're so beyond negative coverage when we're talking about CPS calls.
No, I agree, but I'm not disputing the notion that the individuals he targeted, he could have some legitimate basis to target them based on things that happened before. I
don't even think this is true. Like, again, there's been plenty of negative coverage. Hassan is one such person with negative coverage, but I just don't see Hassan. I don't see Hassan like getting sued over this. Like, it's not about negative coverage, right? Like you can criticize. I like, for example, here's another good example that is completely separate from this. Goku Naru, okay, friend the stream. Goku Naru, okay, friend the stream. Goku Naru made a hit piece on Ethan Klein, called Video Vigilante, okay, a content cop inspiration, on Ethan Klein, okay. There was never really any lawsuit for Goku Naru, right? To this day, he is not sued.